Hey everyone, it's Emily from Life So Savory, and today we're doing a super fun Christmas project. We are going to be making these adorable scrappy pot holders, and they're perfect for using up scraps, thus the name. In fact, I am using up scraps from both my daughter's Christmas dress from this year and stockings that I made for our family a couple of years ago that I found in my stash. So I'm putting these together. I thought they looked fun together, and I'm going to be using this fabric to create a fun pot holder, and I'm going to show you how to make it. So these are great to give away around Christmas time. If you need a housewarming gift, if you're headed to a party, you can take some baked goods as well as deliver a pair of really cute festive pot holders. I love having these hang up in my home around Christmas time, and they are so quick and easy to make. So it's a fun and pretty quick sewing project. Plus, you can't really go wrong. You simply can just create whatever you really want to make with your scraps of fabric, and it goes from there. So let me just pop over here and turn on the comments, and then we're going to get sewing. And let me know maybe where you're watching from today. If you're doing any fun Christmas sewing projects this week, or maybe you're already finished sewing for Christmas, but let me know what you're up to with Christmas sewing, and then we're going to get started. You can see this tripod over here. I am also planning to try and do a time lapse of this project from overhead, so I can share that later because it goes really quick and fast, and it's a fun one. So hi, Emily. Nice to see you. And yeah, so this is what we're making. Scrappy pot holders, and I'm using both fabric scraps from Rose's Christmas dress this year and Christmas stockings that I made for our family a couple of years ago. Okay, so that's what we're using up this fabric from. And we're going to quick talk about the supplies you need, and then we're going to get sewing. So hi, Kimberly. Hi, Mary. So nice to see you. Gift card money holders, those are always really fun and a good gift because everyone is happy. You got to make something homemade, and the person who gets it gets the gift card that they probably really wanted. So I'm all about that. For teacher gifts, I sometimes will make something like cute and homemade, but I always put a gift card inside of it because, you know, they deserve some just cash too as teachers. All right, so here's what you need to make this project. So for a pot holder, the most important thing that you'll need is you'll need some insulation for the middle that is made to withstand heat. You don't want to use a pot holder that's actually going to burn your little fingertips, okay? So this is some Insulbright. I just bought it off Amazon, and you can just put heat resistant batting, and you'll find it too. But it's perfect for all the things that you need to not burn yourself with, and I'm using 2 layers of that inside this pot holder, okay? Then you also need a backing. So I've cut 2 layers of the Insulbright. I have 1 layer for the backing of fabric, and this is an 8.5-inch square. You can make your pot holders whatever size you want. I've also cut 2 inches wide piece of binding for the edge of the pot holder. Sorry, I'm going to just see if I can make it not quite so bright in here. So the binding is 2 inches wide, and it needs to be long enough to go all the way around the pot holder. This is 1 width of fabric, so 44 inches, which is definitely long enough to go around my 8.5-inch square. Okay, so you're going to set those to the side. Now, for the scrappy part, this is what you're just going to cut up scraps. So I literally had some small pieces left over from cutting out Rose's Christmas dress, and then I had a little bit of this red is what I'm shortest on, and I had quite a bit that I could cut up a few 1.5-inch strips, and then I cut some of the green. Okay, this is the skirt for her Christmas dress this year with the red being the top. It's going to be adorable. I'll have to show you when I finish. All right, so these are the 2 fabrics that I'm using for her dress, and I had just enough. It was kind of pricey. I don't know. I bought it at a quilt shop. I can't remember who the designer was. It's really beautiful, and they had a whole line of coordinating fabrics that went with it. So you're going to cut your scraps into 1.5-inch wide pieces of fabric. Some can be short. You don't need as many short ones as you can tell here. You need a few short ones, but then they start to get longer, and then you want up to like 9-inch pieces of fabric, and then we'll cut it square when we're all done. So you can see, you can sew this just like a straight log cabin style where you just go around getting bigger and bigger strips, but I like to make it where you can see they're not even. So I put them at angles, and I create fun designs within the pattern by just angling my fabric, and I'll show you how we're going to do that when we do it. So, okay. So let me know if you have any questions along the way as I'm sewing this. It's going to be fun. So 1.5-inch scraps, 2-inch wide for the binding, your square, whatever size you want. And again, mine is 8.5 inches. You need a sewing machine. You need an iron. The bottom of mine is a little dirty. Not sure what's going on. Oh, it was already on. Okay. So I'm just going to sew and iron here because this is a project where you have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I thought it might be easiest to just do this. So I'm going to try to stand and sew. Hopefully I'll be able to do that, and we'll be able to make this pot holder really quickly. So if you're just joining, we're making this cute scrappy pot holder. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. The full tutorial is in the description of this video, as well as the link is scrolling across the bottom of the screen if you need to look at that. Okay, so lots of you watching today. Super fun. Let's get started. Like I said, I'm also trying to make a time-lapse video of this project. So I'm going to start my camera that's up here. All right, so just let me get that started 1 second. I thought it might be fun to show for social media, having, having a time-lapse video to show how this goes. So, all right, we're gonna start with 2 small pieces of fabric. So I'm gonna start with red in the center because that's my smallest. And maybe I'll go with white this time. Last time I had green in the middle, and you're simply going to place them together at 90-degree angles, and then you're going to sew one side, kind of whichever one you want. Make sure I have scissors over here. We're going to sew this together and begin building this is a log cabin style quilt pattern. Okay, so this isn't anything I made up. It's simply where you build around the base, keeping going. But it's fun and easy. So then we're going to press this open. Let's see if I move this over here. You can see my ironing board a little bit better. So every time you sew, you give a little press. Now you could use a rotary cutter to make these cuts nice and even. But again, we're doing this as scrappy style, so we don't need it to be perfect. All right. We're literally going to try and make it not perfect as we go. All right. So I'm going to start with 2 pieces that are about the same there, and then that's going to build from our middle. So I'm going to now start with the angles, and I'm going to just put this piece of green a little bit at an angle on top of this fabric, and then we're going to sew it again. I am back stitching. I think it's probably up to you if you want to back stitch, because all of these seams will be in other seams as you're going around. So if you don't really want to do the back stitch, you don't have to, but then you're just going to open it up, give it a little press. Okay, now we have 3 pieces built together, and we're just going to begin rotating around. So now as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about colors, okay, thinking about colors and thinking about making my pieces go at different angles. So for this one, you can see I'm going to start up here and angle down, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew that. I'm using probably a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance because I just want it to stay together. I'm not really worried about it matching anything or being a perfect size. Okay, and I'll press this. Now there are, when you're making these angles, there are going to be some larger and smaller seam allowances on the back. I just keep going around and leave those seam allowances. It kind of just all goes together in the end and isn't a big deal. That over there. Okay, so I just have those seam allowances on the back, and now you can see we're building this and we're adding some dimension with the way we're putting it around. Okay, So now, let's see. I'm trying to build this in a way, not that next, that we just get some fun color and some fun shapes as we go around. And I like to alternate which way my angles are going with the fabrics. Okay, so I'm laying it up and down, up and down. You're just trying to make sure that your seams are straight, as in not wobbly. But obviously I'm not sewing it straight. I'm sewing things at an angle. Then you're just cutting and then pressing it open every time as you're doing this. And we're just trying to build a square bigger and bigger around. We need some more red. Okay, so now it's time for some red. Oh, this one fits perfect. And every once in a while, like right now, I'm going to throw in one that is actually pretty straight on there. Okay, so I do some angles, move around, and then you can go ahead and just throw one on that's going perfectly straight across. Okay, however your fabric fits, sort of whatever style you're looking for. But it just is cute. And like I said, it's kind of impossible. Well, I shouldn't say impossible because someone will mess it up, but it is very hard to mess this up because there's not really a shape or a pattern that we're going with. We're simply building around the square. Okay, so I'm going to just keep going around a few more times. And of course, we have 8.5 inches that we need the total shape to be. So that's where our goal is. And I will need to make this bigger than that because of my scrappy designs. It won't be perfectly square. So we'll have to trim it up to square it up. Okay. But look at how cute it's looking. So cute. All right. So we're back to needing some red. And I'm going to put that here. I'm kind of doing this round pretty square. And then we'll start to the next row, mix it up a little bit again. It felt like it was getting off where it wasn't even very squarish. It was, which is fine. You could make this oblong. I mean, it does not have to be square. The square is simply the final shape we need, but not anything we need it to be along the way. Oh my goodness, it's looking so cute already. And it doesn't take very much fabric, honestly. It really doesn't. So I had just a tiny bit of scraps from the red. I don't know, maybe 1/8 of a yard. I mean, really, I was thinking not very much fabric, but I've already, as you can see, made one whole pot holder, and I will have enough for a second, probably enough for a third if I really want. So if this is something that you think you might want to come back and make another time, go ahead and hit like or share. And if you're on YouTube, of course, it's easier to come back because you can just go to my live tab and find it. But if you're on Facebook, it's pretty difficult to scroll back through and find those. So you can make it easy by hitting share on this video, and then it will share to your timeline or sewing group of your choice, wherever you want to share it to, and it makes it easier to come back and find it. Again, you can also head over to the blog post I've written about this. It is a really old post in the video. Okay, so you're going to see some interesting pictures. And I'm hoping to update at least the finished product. I probably won't update the whole tutorial photos just because it still shows what it needs to show, even if the pictures aren't as pretty as I would like. Goodness, look at it. It's building. It's building. It's building. So those ones are those are too short now. So what was I going to say? I don't know. But anyway, I will be updating the the finished product pictures. But if you are still maybe unsure of what I'm doing or not sure what supplies you need for this project, or just have any questions, one, you can ask here, but two, you can check out the post because it probably explains everything you need to get sewing on this project yourself. And like I said before, we're not trimming the seam allowance underneath. So some of the seam allowances are bigger than others, depending on the angle that I sewed the fabric. So don't worry about that, but it's coming together nicely. You can use, I don't know, what is ideal for number of colors. I think 3 is the minimum. Okay, so that's what I'm using here. And I would honestly say 3 is the minimum. I only use 3 because that's all I had that I felt like went together well. I have other Christmas fabrics, but I didn't think that they coordinated with sort of these fabrics. So 4 or 5 will get you just some more variety in your design, and you won't have, like I have here, and I'll show you in a minute, you have some times where the colors are butting up against each other, and you wouldn't have that if you had more colors. So like, for example, here, this red and this red are touching. You wouldn't have that if you had 4 colors, because you could really change up the colors every time you go around the circle. And so you wouldn't have any repeats, but that's not the case that I have here, and that's okay. So I would say at least 3, like I have, but possibly even 4 or 5 colors would give it a little bit, it would just make it a little bit easier to do your design as well. And you don't have to be so specific. Now, 3 works, and I'm okay with some of the colors touching each other. I think these colors, these fabrics are really pretty together, and so it's not a big deal. But that's just my recommendation on there. Okay, so you can see I'm continuing to press after every seam. Continuing to make a beautiful Christmas themed pot holder. Now, maybe you just need new pot holders and you don't want them to be Christmas. Well, of course, you can make these scrappy pot holders with any fabric that you have on hand for any occasion, or just make them out of fabric that goes with your kitchen decor and have some everyday pot holders. I have had these for Christmas. I sewed them many years ago as Christmas pot holders. So when I was trying to decide what Christmas projects I wanted to sew, this one came to my mind, and I had since given away all of those pot holders that are seen in the original tutorial. So I think these make great gifts if you're invited over to someone's house or home during the holiday season. You can give these away as a hostess gift. If you see me like looking down at this, I'm trying to decide how I want my next piece of fabric to go, which is why I'm studying it. Okay, so it's a little bit not a puzzle, but a design, right? So you have to figure out what is the design that you want, how do you want your fabric to go and lay, and that's what I'm sort of looking down and checking out as I examine this. I do have more green that I could cut up. I think I cut up all the red extra fabric, but it looks like I've got one more strip of green. So we'll have to see if I need to cut some more green fabric, or we can just make this work. Okay, so you're just laying that straight every time and sewing it around. And you can see I'm just using scissors to cut off the long pieces. Again, if you want to get out your rotary cutting board and cutting mat and do it that way, you absolutely can do that as well. Once your pot holder starts to get pretty big and you think it might be close, you can start to measure your back piece and see if you think that it is getting close to being the right size. All right, I don't think this is quite the right size. I'm definitely gonna have to go around, but I'm gonna add this green piece. I'm gonna add a red one. I'm gonna add one more white one, and then I'm going to measure and see if we're getting close to the right size. And of course, we'll square this up as well. How big is the finished square? So the finished square can be as big as you want, but I have cut my backing for the pot holder 8.5 by 8.5. Which gives me a just over 8.5 inch square finished pot holder. So, but you can make it as big as you want it to be for your project, or however big you want your pot holders to be. Okay, but that's what I'm going for is 8.5 inches. And I know I will need to, what was I going to say? Oh, I know I'll need to trim this up, right? It's not square anymore. I've made it scrappy and I've moved my angles around and it's no longer a square. But like I said, you could sew this just doing the log cabin style, which is what I'm doing, working around in a circle, adding pieces, sewing around. And if you just matched up the edges and didn't continue to add angles and different shapes, then it would end up pretty close. I mean, I don't think it ever ends up to be a perfect square without trimming, but it would be a lot closer than what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to add one more piece of white. Because look at, this is going to be a pretty good size. It's beautiful. I love it. But we're going to add one more piece of white here, and then we're going to measure, okay? And see how it goes. See what it's looking like. You can use neutral thread on your machine. You can use a color thread on your machine. I have a green on the top and just white on the bobbin thread. And the only time you'll really see that is when I do the top stitching. So you're going to kind of quilt the layers of the pot holder together with the batting in between. And I think this is looking big enough. I think it is. Okay, so I just really want to make sure I press it flat. Okay, how fun is this? It looks so cute. I think it's beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to take my square, which I've already pre-cut, and I know that it's a good size, and I'm going to put it on top. And indeed, yes, it is big enough. I'm just going to set this on the ground for one moment because it's on my cutting space. And I'm going to pull this over here. And we're going to use the rotary cutter, the rotary blade, to trim this up. Okay. All right, so now that we have these two 8.5-inch squares that are very approximately the same size, gorgeous, we're going to take this and you're going to lay your 2 layers of Insulbrite on top of the square as well. This is heat-resistant batting, okay, made for projects like this. So you won't burn your hands. You can actually use these pot holders, okay? Something functional that you're making, and it's adorable. I love functional and adorable. All right, so I'm layering my fabric. I've got it all laid out, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some pins in here. Okay. I want the layers to stay all together. But I'm also trying to put pins through, and it's pretty thick because I have 2 layers of batting and 2 layers of fabric. So you can see there's a good size chunk there, but this is going to hold it all together, hopefully. And when you're finished doing the quilting, you can go ahead and retrim the edges before we put on the edging. Okay, so there is that step. Now I'll bring my machine back up. Okay, and what I'm going to do, it was kind of hard to see on this one, but I'll show you on this one, is we're going to start in the middle and we're going to sew around the square, and then we're just going to kind of keep going around the edges, how we sewed it, until we get around. So I don't have to start and stop. You literally could sew every line and start and stop and finish off your thread at all the corners, but I just want to do it continuous and I don't want it to take forever. But you can quilt this however you want. You could use free motion quilting. You could, anything. Any way that you want to sew this, it is fair game. I am going to lengthen my stitch to a 3 from 2.5, which is the standard. just to make it a little bit more of a top stitching look, I'm going to back stitch when I start. And then I'm going to go and do lots of pivots around this fabric. Okay. Although I just realized that, well, maybe we'll go this way. All right, I'm sewing around and I kind of started going the wrong way on the design. So I'm going to see if I can, without finishing off my thread, if I can get it back in the way I wanted to go. You want to pivot on the corners and not be sewing through the middle of the squares, right? Or the strips. I really want to be sewing on the edge of the strips. You can stitch in the ditch, or you can stitch more where it's going to be seen. Okay, but I somehow got off where I was at the end of the fabric and there wasn't another corner there to sew to. So that's why I went back around. So we'll see. I think it's going to be fine. So I've got green thread on the top, like I said, and then I have just like a cream color white in the bobbin. So it will be pretty unseen on this whitish backing that we have going. If your pins in the corners start to get in the way, you can go ahead and take those off. And you can do as much or as little really top stitching / quilting as you want. You don't really need to sew it together more than just a couple of places because it's not going anywhere. It's not like this is going to come apart, especially once we put the binding on the outside, but you want to sew it together. So I am going to bind it, Deanne. Yep, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. It's, again, quick and easy. Once you have your fabric scraps cut, this is really a project you can sit down and sew several of them, which is, like I said, is like what I like to do because I will give these away this December. I mean, I don't know. I actually love this set a lot myself, so I may not give away this particular set, but I probably will make more to give away. And if we're invited over to someone's house or for Christmas parties, then this is something that I will take and give as a hostess gift. And I think it makes a beautiful December hostess gift. All right, so I'm noticing that I finished going around, but there's this one side that actually needs to be, this whole strip didn't get sewn. So I am going to start and stop, go back over to this one side. And I like to do 8.5 because my next step is going to be to trim this, and then it will be a little bit smaller. So I kind of want to start with something a little bit larger than I think I want so that I can go ahead and trim it down. So there's the front, there's the back. You can see a little bit of the stitching, but it blends right in and it's not a problem. I should have put a stool next to this. So when I was raising and lowering that. All right, so this got off a little bit. I don't know if it was my backing. I'm gonna grab a ruler here. Which machine am I using today? I am using the SE2000 in its sewing machine mode, not embroidery machine mode. And it's nice and small, perfect for just putting up on my counter actually, and sewing. I just wanted it to be easy for you guys to kind of see. And I needed to be able to iron. So I figured that was kind of the easiest way I could do that. Is just to sew it up like I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and now it's hopefully evened out. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is the binding, which is, you guys know how to do a binding. That's not hard. Okay, if you want to put a hanging little hook thing, we need to do that now, actually. So we're going to create a hook by simply folding this tiny piece in thirds, and then I'm going to sew it. You could also sew a piece. Actually, I need to fold it to the inside so that I can, I don't want to have a raw edge. You could also, so you can iron in the edges and then you can fold it over, or you can sew a tube and you can turn it right side out. Okay, either way works. I think I'm trying to avoid sewing a tube, but this, what I'm doing right now might actually be trickier. So I'm not sure. Whew. Just touched a hot iron. Not always a good idea. All right, so I'm going to sew this down the side. Just want a little hanger. Okay. Robin says she made some, put a pocket on the back. Ooh, that's really fun. And that would be easy. So you could do that right at this point in the project, is you could just put another piece of fabric, make sure you finish the edge of the pocket where you're going to slip your hand in. And then, but you could line up raw edges here and then you could just bind it in and that would be easy. Okay, that's really fun. All right. Yes, you do not have to have a fancy machine in order to make beautiful things. And even on my more expensive machine, I'm often making simple projects. So you're not always sewing something that's super fancy or deluxe. We're often just sewing simple projects. And this is one that I love. So I'm just going to clip that hanger hook right there. Okay. And then we're going to leave some fabric here on the edge. I don't really think I need this iron anymore, so I'm actually going to move this out of the way. This is where we're going to join the fabric later. So I'm going to start here and then sew around. So you can, well, actually, I want to fold this in half. I'm not doing my binding in 4 steps. I'm just folding over. Okay, so now you could just sew this along and do it. But you could also, I'm going to just pin this for it right here so I can just stitch around, especially the corners. So no one's ever asked about my iron. It's a Chi iron. I don't know if I love it. I don't even remember where I got it. I actually think Chi sent it to me as sort of a, hey, show this while you're working and we'll send you an iron type thing. I think it's fine. As you can see, I've got some like gunk on it, so it needs to be cleaned. But it's simply my sewing iron and it stays down here in the sewing room. So it seems fine. I don't know, is it my favorite iron in the whole world? Not sure. But is it a decent iron? Yes. Actually, I can't do this. I can't pin it ahead of time. All right, so we're just gonna start sewing, and I'm gonna fold the corners as I go because I just noticed I'll sew over the folds and that won't work either. So, okay, so we're going to begin stitching. I'm going to use about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And like I said, I'm starting on one of the flat sides so that then I can come back and join these edges together. I'm going to go back and switch my seam allowance or my stitch length back to the 2.5 from the 3. And I'm going to sew down to about a 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. Then I'm going to lift it up, lift my needle. Okay. And then you're going to fold back and fold forward, put it back under, make sure your edges are lined up. I like to back stitch a little bit again, but it looks like it messed up my needle. So we're going to cut this and rethread the needle. This machine is the Brother SE2000. Okay, so it's a combo sewing and embroidery machine. It came out, I think, last year, and it is a fun one because it has the Wi-Fi capabilities, which means you can use it with Art Spira. And for embroidery, that opens up just so many possibilities. The Art Spira app, to be able to easily and quickly create your own designs. You can digitalize your photos, your logos, your designs using that app for free. So that is super fun. There is a paid version of the app, which has some more features in it, but the free version has lots of things going for it as well. So this machine is a combo sewing and embroidery. It goes up to a 5x7 hoop. And okay, so now I'm doing the second corner. 5x7 hoop. Obviously right now I'm just using the sewing portion of this machine, not the embroidery section, but it has an embroidery arm that just snaps right in there. So, okay. Yay! Yes, these are fun pot holders, and I just think they're so cute. And I love that I'm using scraps. Like I'm literally, I call this scrap. Sometimes I call projects scrappy, and I'm not really using scraps. But this fabric is literally all left over from other projects that I have used before. So I'm gonna say that it's scrappy because I am really using scraps for this. And I am no professional on my mitered corners, but I'm trying here. And I'll show you when I'm done, but I need more practice. I don't bind enough quilts or sew enough. What do we got here? A thread. So anyway, you will see my attempt is not that beautiful, but the pot holder will be bound and it will hold things and it will protect your hands. So we're going to go with function over beauty on my corners. All right, so this corner right here that I'm coming to has the hook on it. So I want to make sure that I attach that hook to the corner as well when I'm sewing. Okay. And I do have to pull it out a little bit to be able to fold the fabric over. Maybe some of you have gotten it where you don't have to do that anymore, but I definitely still have to. Okay, so now we're going to, I'm going to back stitch, and I'm actually going to cut the thread. This machine has a cut threader, which I love, 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 love. I don't normally stand when I sew. No, but I am doing it today because this is a high counter and I wanted to be able to show the iron and the machine and not move the camera. And I don't have room for the iron by my sitting sewing desk. So I just put this small machine up here and I'm standing and sewing, but I don't normally do that. No. But good question. Okay, so let's see if we can make a fun cross finish here. Okay, so I'm going to fold over. I'm going to put my binding together, fold it over, use my fingers to make a press in the fabric. Then I'm going to open it up. And maybe some of you have done this before. So now I have a cross on that fabric from where I just did it. Then you're going to do the same thing with this one. I just folded it. I have a cross on there. And you're going to put this cross on this cross. Got some pins here. And we're going to open it up. I'm going to pin on this back layer. This works better on a bigger quilt because you have more binding to work with. I've almost got the whole side of this pot holder unsewn, and it still is very hard for me to flatten out this fabric. Okay, and that's just because it's a little bitty sewing project. That's why I'm going to put lots of pins. So now I'm going to sew this at an angle across there, hopefully because I matched up my X's. Then I'll be able to trim it off, and then it will lay flat. So I'm going to keep this folded over as I sew. So from one angle, one edge of this down to the other. And hopefully this works. I've done this before, definitely on bigger projects, but it's kind of hard on a small project because there's just not really space to leave this open. You just need more extra binding to work with. Okay, but it looks pretty good. And if I try it like that. I think it's going to be good. All right, so I'm going to trim my seam allowance. Okay, and then you just go ahead and lay this down on there, and then we can sew it over. And it's kind of a hidden way to do the binding because we don't have a big bulky seam. Lower the presser foot. It literally does, we did it at an angle, so we've spread out that seam over quite a bit of the fabric. I think I could have made it a little bit tighter. It's a little loose on there, but it's looking really nice. Okay, so now we can open it up. We have the hanger there in the corner. So cute, okay? Looks amazing. And we're gonna fold back and over. I'm going to put a bunch of clips on here, and then we're going to top stitch around, and it's finished. So yay, so fun. Pretty easy. If you can sew a straight line, you can definitely make this project. It's not tricky. I'm folding over to enclose that batting and the raw edges of the pot holder. Okay, so use as many clips or pins as you think you need to hold that in place. I'm leaving the corners. I'll come back and do those in a minute. Okay. But I really I could use some new pot holders for my kitchen. So this wouldn't be a bad idea for me to make some just for everyday wear that aren't Christmassy as well. That could definitely be a good project. But of course, I'm in the Christmas sewing mood with all the Christmas fabric, so I only want to make things that are Christmassy at the moment. Right? Who's with me? Christmas all the way. Okay, and then for the corners, sometimes I actually like to put a clip in the corner to hold that in place. Up to you. Oh, how you want it to go. I saw someone posting this is totally off topic. Someone posted in a sewing group this week that they had bought these clips a few years ago and they were down to just like 10. So do people have a recommendation of better clips? Okay, so these are like the cheapest ones off of Amazon. They come in this cute little tin. I bought mine, I think like 5 years ago, and I still have so many clips. Have I dropped some? Have I broken some? Have some probably gone in the trash? Absolutely, but by no means am I down to none. So I was just shocked that someone had broken all of them that quickly. But if it was you, sorry, I haven't broken them. All right, so now we're ready. We're going to top stitch. I'm going to do it on the top side so I can sew a nice straight line around the edge of my binding, and then it will catch the fold over on the back. You can use a decorative stitch or a simple stitch. I'm going to use, let me see. What do I want to do? I love the triple zigzag. I also love the ones that kind of look like cross stitch patterns, which is what I did on my other one today. Maybe I'm going to do this one. It's kind of like a ladder, and I'm going to try to do it like sort of a stitch in the ditch and see if it will go. So we'll see. It goes down and then it's like to the side, side to side, down, side to side. Of course, decorative stitches take a little bit longer, so you'll have to wait a few minutes extra to see the result. But I think it looks cute. Okay, so I'm putting my needle sort of right in the ditch, and then it's going side to side over both sides of the pot holder and the binding. So I think it looks cute. You just have to wait for me to get around And obviously I'm hoping that it's catching the binding in the back. It is. But if it weren't, you'd have to go back and stitch over that again. I love using decorative stitches, especially for things like this where you're just sort of top stitching something, and it's so cute. Uh-oh. But my upper thread just broke. Okay. And actually it did come out. Okay. So let's rethread this. This machine does have a needle threader, which I love. It's not the push button kind, but it's a pretty good one. Okay, it's a pretty good one. Okay, where was I? If that upper thread breaks again, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I need a new needle or it doesn't like the stitch. I can't imagine. I did a decorative stitch on this one. I did use a different sewing machine, but it worked fine and it wasn't an issue going all the way around. Didn't break any needles, didn't have to change any thread. So we'll see. Hopefully it's good. Decorative stitching for finishing or top stitching is my favorite and is very easy to do. You can also hand stitch this binding over, okay? If you don't want to machine stitch it, you could use a whip stitch. That doesn't, I don't know if that's catching. If I do miss catching some of this, I probably will just hand stitch it finished since I've already stitched on the front. This one, that side is not attaching. Come on, you're folded over. You're folded over enough. So anyway, I might have to get my needle and thread out, but it'll still look pretty on the outside because we did this decorative top stitching, and then I can just fake it till I make it with my needle and thread on the back, okay? That's my secret weapon. If something isn't quite right, I just get out the needle and thread and fix it, but you won't see it from the front because the front has the decorative stitching on it, right? And I think I could have adjusted the stitch length and the stitch width of this decorative stitch as well, which would have, you know, it caught part of that, just didn't catch part of it. I guess if you're having trouble with the binding, you could make it a little bit wider, maybe 2.5 inches, maybe would have been better. Honestly, on this version, I didn't have an issue. So I thought the 2 inches was good, but this one, it seems like it would have been helpful to have a little bit more width of binding to fold under. So maybe my batting is fatter or something, I don't know. All right, we just have 1.5 sides left. Then I'll reveal to you how cute it looks. So don't be running away yet. We've got a decorative stitch final reveal to go here. And then you can start using up all your Christmas scraps, making these fun scrappy pot holders to give away or to use in your own kitchen. Again, if you're not sure about any of the steps that I've done today, make sure you take a look at the full tutorial, which I've linked in the description and is also scrolling across the bottom. And that will give you all the details you need, as well as the supply list. The most important thing is that you need insulated batting so you don't burn yourself. You actually want these, I mean, I want them to be functional pot holders so I can use them like under pans on my kitchen counter. Let's It's not grabbing. I needed a wider one apparently around this, but we're gonna finish, and then we're gonna whip stitch it down, and it'll be fine. But the top stitching looks really cute around. This is a fun stitch, back and forth, but it's somehow my binding isn't wide enough to go around and be caught, so I'm not sure why. Yeah, it's loose. Weird. I just did one today, and I've done like so many others before where it was fine. So we're just going to pretend. I'm being honest with you right now that this is not working, but I could be pretending that it was sewing just fine, but I'm not. Okay, I'm being honest. It is not catching all of my binding around the back. I'm going to have to go ahead and fix that. But this top stitching on the front still looks too pretty for me to stop, because this is the look I want. And I will just hand stitch it on the back for the functionality purpose. This right now is apparently just being decorative because it's not doing what I want. Miss binding the back, or is bigger than the happy. Yeah. I don't know what's happening with my binding. Again, I just did this other one this morning, and I didn't have to fake it or do anything weird to it. It literally, when I top stitched around like I'm doing right now, it was fine. So I'll show you both. We'll pretend. It's all good. I'm actually loving the decorative stitching. It just isn't really actually holding the binding. Okay, almost around. Time for the big reveal. I'm going to show you both versions because the other one actually has a bound binding, and this one not as much as I would like. Maybe a new needle, but it's stitching. It's stitched 100%. It just is like my binding wasn't big enough, or I didn't fold it over properly and pin it. I'm not sure, but there we go. All right, let's get a close up. Okay, so here is the close up. See that beautiful top stitching around there? It looks amazing. It would look more amazing if it was actually being functional. Okay, so this needs to be brought to the back and smaller, not like that. So I don't know. The back, kind of a fail. The front, super cute. This one worked. This stitched on perfectly. And then the hanger. Where's the hanger? Here. And cute. Okay. Yay. Perfect. And then here's this one. Okay. It did all bind on the background. See? No weird edges. I didn't use colored thread on this one, so it actually, you just see it. But it's like a cross stitch with cream. It's kind of hard to see that, but you can see the top stitching on there. It worked out. This one worked out better. So anyway, yay. Now I have 2 pot holders and, sorry, cords, tripping over cords. And I love them, and they're so cute for Christmas. And I hope you will sew some, because this is actually sew a straight line. You can sew this project. It's cute and easy. There is a full tutorial linked, so any mistakes that I made today, you can correct by following the directions and doing it better than I can. But anyway, make some of these. They are fun. They are easy, and look how cute they look. They're different. Everyone will turn out differently. I'm not following any pattern when it comes to the design inside, but you are making something fun and easy and using up your scraps. So I'll see you next week for another fun sewing tutorial, probably something Christmassy, as we gear up towards the end of December. But I can't wait to sew more, and I hope you're having a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.